Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and if you're new to me, welcome, and please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I hope you enjoy what you see. Today I'm working on a version, a different size version. I haven't seen anybody make this size before, but they may well have done, but it's a flip flap card. So I made one the other week in a standard card size, but wanted something with a bit more of a wow factor. And as I was had a challenge from the from one of the blogs that I'm on today, I thought I would create a version of this because the challenge was Halloween or autumn, and so I've come along with the Season of Chic stamp and die set and a fun flip flap card because I kind of went, I just love the leaves in these, so pretty. And if you flip it over, there we go, that's the other side. So it's a great scrap buster card. So all of those little offcuts that you've got, I've generally used the same, just with a little bit of difference, a couple of bits, but you know, you could make those different front and back. I just seem to find I've always got loads of little bits that kind of, that I end up with, little long strips. So that's what we're making. It's a flip, and it fits in a DL envelope. Duh, should have said that. So there we go. So there's a DL envelope, and it just fits in there as well. So if you're in the US, you know, you're going to want to make it 4 1/8 because otherwise it'll be a bit too wide. And I've kept it to this length so that it actually can be made from US cardstock as well. So we're going to start off by stamping these panels and our little accents here. So the paper I've used, I should have said, Inked Botanicals. This is the paper. It's a 6x6 paper. It's probably why I end up with lots of little offcuts. So you've got lovely designs, sort of floral leaf designs on the one side. As you can see there, a lovely selection, and then more solid colours on the reverse. So I've gone for a Calypso Coral and Petal Pink, which are in the colour palette here. So these are the colours that are in there. So I've gone for these two, just because I like them. It's actually a combination. I know a lot of people aren't keen on Calypso Coral, but I think it works so well when you put it with Petal Pink. I think it's a really pretty one. So I'm going to leave that one up there. And so as I go through, there's quite a bit of cutting, but I say it's great for scraps. I end up with scraps of all sorts of card. So this centre panel, I've got 2 pieces of card for the layer, which are 15.5 by 5. So this one was Calypso Coral with Petal Pink layer. I'm going to reverse that to be Petal Pink with Calypso Coral. So you want 2 pieces, and then you want 2 pieces 15 by 4.5 centimetres, which are going to be our stamped panels. Okay, you're then going to want some scraps to stamp on and do some die cutting with. Again, you know, a great way to just use up those bits and pieces that you've got. Because we're changing colours, you're going to need to have some cleaning implements as well. So you can make sure you've got your stamp and scrub or your chamois to hand as well. I've already mounted these up on the blocks, and because I've been stamping in Calypso Coral and Petal Pink, I don't need to clean them straight away. What I'm going to do is come in with my Calypso Coral first, and this is going to be my detailed stamp. So I'm just going to come across here. I'm going to do the 2 ends first, and then pop one in the middle, just as I've done on the other one. And then on my scrap, I'm just going to stamp another couple as well. So then I'm going to come in, and this is my Petal Pink. So this is the kind of more solid stamp, and it's quite a nice light shade. You could stamp off Calypso Coral if you wanted to. What I'm doing when I'm stamping these is I'm lining up the stem, which is the same, and then just rotating till I've got the rest of it lined up, and that then gives me that. So I'm going to carry on with my leaves here. The beauty of this stamp is it's quite forgiving, so if you don't get exactly lined up, it doesn't matter. It's got kind of a sketchy feel to it anyway. So there we go. Now this one is for my sentiment. I'm going to use my Calypso Coral again. I generally use a darker colour for my sentiment to make it stand out. And I'm just hoping that my grid paper, and I'm stamping this off to the left because that's what shows when we flip the card. There's then this sort of texture stamp as well, which I've got here, which I'm just going to use. Now if you haven't got a pad of paper, you might find it useful to use your stamping pierce mat. That then cushions the photopolymer stamps. With red rubber you've already got the cushioning on them by the way of the foam, but obviously that isn't the case with these, so you just want to add a bit of cushioning as well. So I've just used that as a decorative border. I'm actually going to come in and use that detailed stamp again, but stamp it off and just kind of over stamp the edge there. Just add a little bit more detail. Okay, so I'm going to pop those two colours away, and then the other colour I used on this one, you'll see here, is crushed curry. And you can use crushed curry and daffodil delight if you want to have two layers, two colours, or you can use crushed curry and crushed curry stamped off. So again, just going to clean those stamps. Just make sure you're not going to contaminate your other ink pads. So chamois, raindrops on one side, which is where you spray your stamping mist. Your drying sunshine image on this side, where you can then dry it as well. Maybe teach my grandmother to suck eggs, but just in case you're new to it. So again, crushed curry, we're just going to come in and pop a leaf in between those ones. Doesn't matter if they overlap. Now I say I'm going to stamp that off because you don't want to put the same colour over the top, because obviously it would just disappear, you'd lose that detail. So by stamping off, you get a lighter shade that you know is going to blend in perfectly. And then I might even add a bit of interest around that as well. There we go. Where I've just caught that with a bit of, let's cover that up. Nothing like a good bit of a splatter stamp to cover up any mistakes. So those are our two panels, which are going to go onto there, like so. We're now going to die cut these. Now in the dies to go with this stamp set, so here's the stamp set, lots of sentiments, seashells, obviously covers all the seasons. We've got a die that cuts out the leaf. So I'm just going to cut those up. So we've got a die that cuts out the leaf, and then we've got these two detailed ones. Now these detailed ones will layer on top of the leaf if I show you. So if you imagine that's die cut out, that will layer on top of the stamped image, or you could die cut a solid leaf out and then layer that on the top. So there's a couple of options, and what I'll do is I'm going to die cut some of these out, and I will be back in a moment. When you're die cutting, just a couple of things to note. If you use that little release hole at the bottom to kind of line up the stem, so line up the top, and then kind of once you're happy with it being around, sort of line up the stem, and then I put a little bit of tape just to stop that moving about. Now with these detailed ones, what you can do is actually die cut those out from your cardstock, but pop some double-sided adhesive. So we've got the adhesive sheets, just pop some of that onto there, and then when you cut it out, that will obviously make it easy to adhere to your project as well. Okay, so there we've got a selection of leaves, we've got a selection of detailed die cuts. Some of them have got, well, none of these got the adhesive. I've just got one here with the adhesive sheet on the back. You can see it there. And what I've also done is cut a solid leaf out, just to show you what I meant about the layering effect that you can get. So you take your solid leaf, and then you could pop that detail over the top as well, so you could get sort of layered leaves. I rather like this kind of sketchy feel that we've got on here, and so I'm just going to create those two side panels that we've got. And for those, you want two pieces of basic white that are 5 centimetres wide by 4.5 high. And I'm going to layer those onto some Calypso coral, which I've got. You're going to want 4 pieces of this, but I'm just going to use 2 for the moment, because you want 2 to layer with your DSP and 2 to layer with your die cuts, if you're going to do one exactly the same as me, and you may choose to do something quite different. And again, you could stamp the back of the background with that texture stamp if you wanted to. I quite like the sort of cleanness of the basic white, just to kind of give a pop those leaves against and make them pop. So with each of those, I just thought I'd use one of each of the die cuts. There we go. The petal pink. There we go. In fact, there we go. They're actually the same. So 2 ways to attach these. First way, obviously, as I've said, is to use an adhesive sheet. That means that you can just peel that off and pop your leaf straight down onto your layer. The other way is to pop your leaf there and then pop lots of dimensionals on the back of your onto the back of your solid image. So if I show you what I mean, if you grab, so here's my solid image, and I'm just going to pop a line of dimensionals up the centre there. So, and that, when you put that on there, will hold that detailed die cut in place. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Alternatively, you could layer them up and then add the dimensionals as well if you wanted. I prefer on this one to layer it up sort of flatter. The reason is because what I don't want is for them to come over the edge of these and interfere with the mechanism. So just make sure you can come top and bottom, but keep it within the sort of confines of the layer that you've got of coloured card. In this case, it's our Calypso coral. So those are our 2 panels. We can add some adhesive to these ones as well. Oh, that bit of Calypso coral's got a bit of a faded corner. Obviously left it exposed to the sun at some point. It happens sometimes. And often I will sort of cut those bits off if I spot them in time. And obviously I didn't here. There we go. So those are our panels. Those are coming together really nicely. So the next thing we want to do is cut our DSP. So if you haven't got scraps, then take a piece of DSP, and I'm going to cut a piece for the long strips that is 11 by 12 centimetres. So I'm going to cut it to 11 and then just trim that down to 12 if you wanted, and then you could cut them into strips. So if you have a piece that's 11 by 12, you know you've got enough. I'm just going to cut those at 1.5 centimetres, and you want 8 pieces if you're having them all the same. My trimmer is snagging a little bit. I think I need to clean the track out. There we go. So this is where it just starts to get a little bit more tricky when it's a narrower piece. So this last one, which is 3 centimetres, I'm just going to centre that. I've obviously cut a couple that haven't been quite right. I've got to get an extra couple of millimetres. So I'm just going to trim that and then cut that in half at 1.5. Put the track down, and there we go. So 8 pieces like that, and you're going to then want, in this instance, 8 pieces of card that are 1.5. They're not. They're 11.5 by 2 centimetres. 6. There we go. So I'm just going to add these pieces to the back. You can use whatever glue you want. Tombow gives you a bit of wiggle room, which is if you're not sure about your layers. So I'm just going to centre those on each one. So back in a moment. Once you've put all those on layered up, you want to do your side panels. So we've done the 2 with the layers on. So as I've said, you wanted 4 of this size. So this is 5.5 wide by 5 high. And then the layers to go on top are just 5 by 4.5. So the same dimensions as those basic white layers, but instead of which we're cutting them out to DSP instead. So I'm just going to pop those on there. And obviously you could mix and match, you could have a real kind of patchwork effect if you wanted to. So we've done all of our preparation now, we've done our stamping and done our die cutting. Now to create our card base, which is really pretty simple. But a couple of things I'm going to do just slightly different, just to help you create it easily as you can. So you're going to start off with a piece that is 28 by 10.5 centimetres. Go. Mine's got a bit of an ink smut on this, but it doesn't matter. The scoring is really easy. So this is, you're going to score at 6 centimetres and again at 12. Take it out, turn it around and do exactly the same at the other end. So 6 and 12. Now this is the trickiest bit, if you like, of the whole thing. You're going to line up at 2.5 centimetres and you're going to cut between this first and second score line and the third and fourth. So if you line up on your, if you're using a Stampin' Up trimmer, you'll find you have a little line on the side of that cutting blade, and that helps you just judge where the cut comes to. And err on the side of caution, you can always lift it up and bring it back in again. Turn it around exactly the same, so line up at 2.5 centimetres. And then lift up the track because you don't want to pull it all the way down, and do the same again at the bottom. So first and second, third and fourth. Then you want to line it back up in at 6 centimetres. Now you might find that it snags a little bit. If it does, take it out, cut it with your scissors. But you're just cutting between those two score lines. Okay, and that is all of the cutting and scoring done. So as I said, you might find it hasn't quite released. Just come in with your snips. Just gently release that. Now that I'm not worried about that ink smut because I know that's going to be covered up by my layers. Now the next thing to do, you do not want to crease this first score line. So all you're going to do, if I hold it like that, that should show you. You're going to crease those middle score lines. That's all. Just the top and bottom bit. Keep that centre panel nice and straight. And then you're going to do a valley and a mountain, and it's as easy as that. Okay, and that creates our flip flap. Now you might find you've got some ragged edges, so I say come in and burnish those down with your bone folder. You can come in with an emery board as well, that's the other way that you can do them, and just because you're going to see both sides of the card. So a bit of an emery board will do the trick there, but just burnishing with your bone folder will smooth those out. So now all we want to do is decorate, and I find the easiest way is to have it out flat. And then, so while you're decorating yours, you might want to sort of just press pause on the video, and then you can follow along as well. So it doesn't look particularly exciting at this point, but I think it's really when you do have these, add the layers on, that it really comes to life. Now obviously this stamp and die set have been around a little while, so if you love it, it's a really versatile one because you can cover literally all 4 seasons. It's got a lovely snowflake in it as well, so I might try and do a version of this with a snowflake theme. Yeah, maybe some of that Magical Meadow DSP. So all I'm doing is just layering those up, as we can see there. I'm going to pop my big panel across the middle. Then we can just flip over and finish decorating on this side. This is where it goes quiet until I have to concentrate. So you'll see that these layers, I've deliberately kept these so that they follow on, they're the same width as that centre one to just give it a nice line. It does mean you get a slightly bigger gap top and bottom. So you might prefer to have that, or you might prefer to make them as different size. But I like this because what this does is it covers up those score lines. And it means you can just do the straight scoring. As I said, it doesn't look very exciting until you add these layers on. And so you could always put one in the middle there. On my smaller version I've done, it fits in a standard, what we call a C6 envelope. But I know that's I think yours is A2 in the States? Whichever, anyway, there we go. So there we have our flip flap card, and you'll see just flips and flips. So there it is, way one, and on the other side. So what do you think? Which one do you prefer? I think they both look beautiful, and I think anybody would be delighted to receive them. And the lovely thing is that I pop it in the envelope like this, it flips and then would display on the side there. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon. Pop along to my shop at Stampin' Up! And select me as your demonstrator, and please allow contact so I can send you my thank you gift and card in the post. Thank you for watching. Bye now.